Hello and welcome to the Home Business Podcast. My name's Phil. Joining me as usual, I've got Rohan. Hey Rohan, how you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
Very good, thank you. As usual, this episode of the Home Business Podcast is sponsored by Home Business Cloud by Nabucasa. Easily access your local Home Business instance remotely for a small monthly fee that supports the Home Assistant, ESP Home, and its Z-Wave.js projects. Configuration is done via user interface, so no fiddling with router settings, SSL certificates, or any YAML. Special thanks to our Patreon executive producers, Rob and Benny. You can help support this show and get early access to episodes in an ad-free feed by becoming a member of our Patreon. Check the Patreon link on our website or in the show notes wherever you're listening to this podcast. Rohan, 2025.2 is here, so February release is finally with us. Before we get into that, I just want to discuss a couple of things I had seen around Home Assistant and around the internet in general. One of the things that came across my Google News feed this month was that Logitech have just announced a new device that's coming out for the business world, which is an office presence sensor. And so Logitech do a lot of business-focused devices, webcams, microphones for conference rooms. This device is it looks like a little smart speaker from what I saw of a little, screenshot there. And it's designed for people, for businesses to put into rooms like meeting rooms, conference rooms. And it has what we're all familiar with here in Home Assistant land, millimeter wave sensors, all right? So that they can track if a room is occupied, how long it's being occupied for. And I guess the idea being that in an office or commercial space, they can then, turn lights off if a room isn't occupied.
Right.
There was some discussion about some bit of monitoring happening against staff as well. For example, what's heart rates of staff, how many people are in a room.
How long are they at the desk? Are they
Exactly, yeah. So leaving that to one side, I was pretty interested just to see another mmWave device, this time based in a commercial sense. It would be cool. I'm guessing they're going to be a bit pricey, probably not in a price point that makes it, worth to put around the home. But I thought it was cool to see some smart home tech, moving into an office environment now.
It's also interesting coming from Logitech, who I wouldn't have thought to see that from, but I guess, sure. I mean, I wonder how they're pricing it or what that's going to look like or anything like that. But
and something else that randomly happened to me, and I wanted to know, right? So we are recording this just in the beta of 2025 too. Have you upgraded to the beta yet at all, Rohan?
Not to the beta yet, no.
Okay. Are you using HACS? I'm guessing you've got HACS installed.
I am, yep.
Does HACS still work for you in your Home Assistant?
It didn't. I had to fix it.
Me too. Thank you. I'm glad I wasn't the one going mad here. I don't know what happened for you, but my HACS menu just disappeared. And I was like, what the hell? Like, where's it go? I actually thought, I must have been still running the beta, but no, I wasn't running beta. I was running 25.1 proper. So I don't know what happened.
I think there was something with Music Assistant or something like that.
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
That was messy. So the fix for it was you had to go into the HACS config file and delete Music Assistant from there, and then reboot, and then it came back.
So for me, I just had to reinstall HACS completely. So and I think it was only mentioned in a random GitHub issue. There was no pinned topic or anything. It was a Google search that led me to this random GitHub issue. It sort of denoted that one error code that I was seeing. But so I guess a shout out to anyone if you have, because I only looked at it because I needed to upgrade a random. I think my Dyson fan, coincidentally, the library I was using, decided it was unmaintained. So I needed to change that out. So like, okay, cool. I'll just go into HACS and change the library, and the HACS menu wasn't there. That's the only way I noticed it. So if you haven't checked your HACS menu item since upgrading to 2025.1, just make sure it's there. I think the easiest for me was just to reinstall HACS completely, but just a little PSA for everyone there.
Yeah, there you go. Also, there's a couple of just announcements coming from the Nabucasa team. Hear the Voice Chapter 9, that's coming up as well. So you want to stay tuned for that. And then the ESP Home live stream will be a week after that. And then they're going to do a State of the Open Home on April 12th. That's where they go through some of the roadmap and where they want to take this product, right? So it's typically Paulus and Madalena and those kind of folks that go through this and say, okay, well, this is what's happening.
Yeah, and if you watched the live stream from last year, the year of the State of the Open Home from last year in April, it was in a live studio. It looked really professional. Apparently, that's what the format they're going to keep again this year, so that's good.
Right.
I really liked that format. It looked schmick. It was cool to see everyone dressed up and having panel discussions, and it was live, right? So they were answering questions in the YouTube comments as well. So yeah, I'm excited to see what the roadmap's going to look like this year.
Yeah. No, that's cool. All right, let's talk some new features. What's going on?
Well, I think we've started the year with backups, and I think it was a bit of a mixed bag in the receiving department there. I think Home Assistant sort of went out saying, yep, here's backups. We've made it really simple. But the community they had some thoughts, I think, and a lot of feedback has sort of been taken. And now it's been sort of passed on back into this release. So one of the main bits of feedback around that was encryption. People were a little bit confused about getting back an encrypted file and all that. So encryption can now be turned on or off per location. So if you have your own local file storage, you may not want that encrypted. You may decide that encryption is overkill in this situation. However, there is one exception, so it can be turned off and on anywhere you like, but Nabucasa is refusing to accept any unencrypted backups. So you must use encryption when using the Nabucasa backup option.
Yeah, and that's not a bad thing, right? Just to make that very clear. In a situation, you want to encrypt everything, but
yeah. And Nabucasa does not want to be subpoenaed to have to provide backup files for a Home Assistant instance, right? Like they were like, nope, we don't want access to it. We're not dealing with that. So, and of course, if you're putting your backup into Google Drive, which is now supported, we'll get to in a minute. Who knows what Google or wherever you're uploading it to might do with your data, right? They might start training AI with it or whatever. And of course, when downloading backups that are encrypted in Home Assistant, they will now be decrypted automatically for you. So the decryption key stays locally on your device. So it will then be downloaded to your device. And from there, it will then be decrypted and then passed on to your browser in a decrypted format.
And it looks like there's also more scheduling options and, when you want to run it. You can also turn off a schedule and just trigger it via automation. But you can also, I didn't realize this went away, but you can also, what came back was the toggle to backup when you're installing updates.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that went away because I guess when I updated it, I didn't notice that. But usually that you had a choice. Do I want to, anytime I update Home Assistant, do I want to back it up or not? So I guess they removed that choice and then brought it back now.
Yeah, that's right. Home Assistant, I think the theory was that Home Assistant is now so smart. We've got these automated backups in place. When doing updates, you don't need automated backups because we've already got backups, from every morning or every day. But a lot of people are saying, no, for statistics, we want to get the last backup to the minute, right? I guess if your last backup was over 12 hours ago, then you have to recover from that, you potentially lose, 12, 15 hours worth of data that may not be there. So that's now there. I think the only exception is if you are upgrading or installing an update to an add-on, only the add-on's data will be backed up. So,
which makes sense.
Yeah. And file names have been improved too. I think it was all IDs randomly. Yeah. So now there's, dates and it becomes a bit more human readable as well.
And there's some new locations. You kind of hinted at that earlier. So you can now point to Google Drive, OneDrive, or Synology NAS directly from Home Assistant to back up as a backup target.
Paulus had the prophecy in the Creators Call in January that there would be 4 backup locations for this month's release, and it has come true. There was a sneaky one. The Synology NAS came in right at the end there. So thanks everyone for making that little prophecy come true. I will say just,
but
but with Nabu that makes 4.
But Nabu included, yeah, fair.
Yeah, and local as well, technically 5, maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
How you could count.
We'll give you that, Paulus.
I will say, just on backups, I did the noob thing this month and ran out of disk space because of backups. So I enabled the new automatic backup feature. I don't know what I did wrong or where I think it was a bit confusing in the UI, but I think the old automated backups I had in place were then not deleted. So the new backups were coming in and the old backups weren't being deleted, and I eventually ran out of disk space, which to the uninitiated, it can take a while to debug, right? When you run out of disk space, it's generally random things will stop working, like log files will stop being written. Or I was trying to upload a YAML automation file and it wasn't saving to disk. I'm like, why don't I have permission to update that file anymore? And then I thought, oh no, someone's hacked into my server. But then I was like, hang on, let me check the disk space first. I've been down this road one too many times. And sure enough, 100%. So, and it was all in the backups folder. So I had to clear those out.
Also, a good idea to watch your disk space too, right? Make sure you have enough, etc. But the Nabucasa cloud backup piece is really nice too, right? Because you don't really need to worry about that. So that's kind of
exactly.
Nice. All right, let's talk about voice. Looks like there's quite a bit happening here too. So there's a couple of things where I'm kind of like, where I don't really fully understand it. So Phil, I know you were on the creators call. I missed it this week, but the broadcast intent. So does that mean I can now say announce something?
So if you're familiar with the Amazon Echo, you can tell the little lady in there, send an announcement or broadcast a message, and it will basically record the little audio clip that you then proceed, right? So, hey, little lady, announce dinner is ready, right? And an announcement will come along with your voice saying dinner is ready. The only difference, so this now applies to the voice assistant. So if you've got multiple voice assistants around the home, they can now broadcast those messages. If you are coming from an Amazon Echo, the only difference here being that in the Amazon Echo, your voice would be recorded, so it would take an audio recording. In this one, it will use text-to-speech.
Interesting. Okay.
To announce
that. So
it's
not actually your voice.
Yeah, exactly. So there might be some quirks where, if the speech recognition hasn't happened, it has got the right words, it may come out a little bit quirky, but that's to be expected.
I'm curious to know how that works for non-English speaking households, right? Like if I say something in another language, does that properly get translated across? I know they've been doing a lot on the non-English front, right? Or like local languages front, but
I'd be interested to hear. I'd assume it would work the same. I did read I think it was in the Polis's Home Assistant newsletter this month that Greek Home Assistant is the only voice assistant for the Greek language. So there you go. None of the big players have released a Greek language voice assistant yet.
Wow. You can also set temperature on thermostats. So if you, if you say, hey, I want to set the house to 22 degrees, great, you can do that, right? But if you have more than one thermostat in a room, you'll need to specify that by name.
Yeah, and calendars have now been exposed to large language models. So if you have hooked up a Google Gemini or an OpenAI as your voice assistant or your Home Assistant Assist, those models can now access any calendars you've got integrated with Home Assistant. So, for example, you can then ask, what's the agenda for tomorrow? Whose turn is it to cook? Those sort of things.
You can also share history between the conversation and your fallback LLM. So now you can mix and match chat agents. So you can say, hey, whatever keyword you have, ask Google this, and then you can follow up to a question to OpenAI or something like that too, right? So that's pretty neat. I don't know what the use case there would be, but sure.
Yeah, so I guess on the creators call, we sort of had the scenario where you would say, what light is on in the bedroom, right? Or turn on the bedroom lights. In that case, because it's handled locally, it doesn't fire off to the LLM, right? Because we're trying to save credits. It can be done locally. It's faster, right? So we say, turn off the bedroom light. But then if we then follow up with can you set that to a funky color red that then needs to go to an LLM to process, it doesn't have the context of, okay, we're actually talking about the bedroom light. So it would then say, sorry, I don't know what light you want to turn off on. We can now share that conversation history with an LLM externally. And so it knows, okay, you were just talking about a bedroom light. I can use that bedroom light to now set that color that you asked for. Home Assistant can now make outbound calls to VoIP phones. And I think it's fair to say Paulus and the Nabucasa team probably pretty proud of this. Someone that doesn't have a landline phone at all in his house, I'm still struggling to get the appeal of this. I would find it very annoying to have a phone, an old school landline phone in a house having ringing from anyone, let alone Home Assistant. But yeah, if you've got one of these notification services set up, you can now have Home Assistant call your landline VoIP. What's cool about it is that so when you call the service and you pick up the phone, the service will technically be still executing. Once you hang up the phone, then the service call finishes. So you could then automate, for example, a light turning on over, like a spotlight over the phone that's ringing. Right. Then have the light stay on while you're listening to the announcement. And as soon as you hang up the phone, then the light turns off. Like that's one use case
Interesting.
Example.
Okay.
All right. So there you go.
Sure. That might get kind of annoying though. Ring, ring, you pick up the phone. It's like front door is open. And
then you hang up and then bang.
Yeah.
All right. Model context protocol. I got explained this by Paulus. I'm going to keep it high level to my understanding because it seemed pretty complicated. But the model context protocol is essentially a way for, and it hasn't been decided yet, it's still very much in flux, but is a type of standard where LLMs and device manufacturers or device, in this case Home Assistant, can expose a model for a device. So a light or something would look like this, and this is how you then can control it. Essentially allowing LLMs amongst each other and, of course, other third-party systems to have a single way to describe this is an object, this is the capabilities of it, this is how you control it. Home Assistant has started working on this. It's going to be, because it's still in flux, they're going to do all this work and try and keep to a standard, but yeah, it could eventually go to the wayside and be pointless. But at least Home Assistant is trying to support it. And if another LLM out there also supports it, then that should make communicating with Home Assistant and that LLM a bit easier.
Yeah. But to note, that is experimental right now. So
yes.
Might work, might not, could go away, etc. So, Shelley Blue, the TRV, or the oh my goodness, there we go. The thermostatic radiator valve now has support for Home Assistant, starting to come into the ecosystem here.
Nice. Now, something that is a big change, but is, I think, a big change under the hood. There's a whole new front-end graph library. So apparently we've been told we shouldn't notice any changes yet, and I haven't noticed any changes in the graphs either. They look exactly the same. But yeah, the front-end graph library has been completely done away with and upgraded, but there's going to be some big changes coming in the future. But yeah. Looking forward to that.
There's a Bluetooth config panel coming now. This is something I'm excited for. You can see information about connected Bluetooth devices, which you actually couldn't before. It just kind of either showed up or it didn't. In there's an advertisement monitor that allows you to see all the devices and their RSSI that each Bluetooth proxy can see. So this is interesting for me, at least, because again, one of the things I never had visibility into is to say, okay, well, which Bluetooth proxy are my blinds connected to? So I have some SwitchBot tilt devices literally right next to me here in my office. And I've always suspected that they are connected to my blinds, to my Bluetooth proxy that's in my bedroom on the other side of the house, rather than in my front closet, which is not that far from here.
Yeah.
Right. So it's stuff like that that I would want to double check and try and see if I can encourage to go into another proxy. Right. And so there's also connection slot allocations that you can monitor on here as well. So you can start to see how many allocations are you being used by each proxy. So again, it's just more data into what you're actually what's actually happening on the Bluetooth front, because that's actually something I think that we always lacked a little bit of visibility into. So that is really nice to have.
Yeah, particularly the connection slot. Like, so I haven't got any Bluetooth integrations at all in Home Assistant, so I'm haven't really been across how it works, but I can see that. So let's say, for example, you've got some blinds in your case, Rohan, like connected to a Bluetooth device. When you're sending out a command to that Bluetooth, to that blind, it actually takes up a slot, and the slots are pretty limited, right? There could be, maybe only 4 slots per Bluetooth chip, right? So if you've got 4 blinds connected and you're trying to open 5 blinds, unfortunately, the 5th one is not going to have a connection slot available, and it will just get missed. So it's cool that now
it also tells you that, hey, you might need a couple more proxies around or something like that, right? And looking at that RSSI value, that's your signal strength, right? So you can start to see, is that in a good range or in a bad range or what have you. Hopefully, I haven't seen what this looks like, but hopefully there's some indication of some translation of good, okay, bad kind of deal. That's in there too. So hopefully that's a little more visible. All right, let's talk about new integrations, Phil.
All right. The first integration we've got, Rohan, is Homey, spelt HOMEE. Looks like it's a German smart home system. You can now bring devices and sensors from that system into Home Assistant. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's right. Not to be confused with Homey, the smart home platform.
Yes.
HOMEY.
That's right.
Gets a little confusing there, but something else, Igloo Home. So you can monitor the battery levels of your smart access devices from them. They have some smart deadbolts, key boxes, and padlocks. That's good to know. I didn't know there's like smart key boxes and stuff.
Yeah, I've seen like a few like forum posts before, right? Like, who's got a smart, padlock? Who's got a smart deadbolt, or a lockbox or something?
I've seen smart padlocks and stuff. That's I've never seen a key box, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Real estate agent kind of deal. That's smart.
Yeah. Like if you've got an Airbnb and using Home Assistant to power it, then this is perfect use case for it.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Lepot. You can now monitor your Lepot indoor garden. I checked out the integration. Maybe I was a bit confused. I looked around the source code, but it looks like you can only control or only monitor the times that the lights turn off and on. Hopefully there'll be some more sensors and values added to that in the future.
A couple of breaking changes. Ecovacs. So if you have a Dbot or something else from Ecovacs, the attributes on your vacuum entity for the lifespan of the main brush, side brush, and filter have been deprecated and now removed. There's some dedicated sensors, so don't use the attributes, use those dedicated sensors instead.
And if you're one of the 3 people in the world using a Home Assistant installed as from Python itself, a pip package, that you'll now need to upgrade to Python 3.13, which was released in December. So Python 3.12 support has been deprecated or dropped. So you now require 3.13. If you're running Home Assistant Container, OS, or anything else, that should be automatically handled for you.
Yeah, It's pretty much only if you're in a virtual environment that you need to care about that.
Yep, exactly.
So, cool. Relatively short episode today, so I think that is it.
Yeah, I think the big takeaways, a lot happening in voice. So I think what we've got, voice preview edition, which was brought out end of November, early December. And yeah, I think there's already been an explosion of voice things happening. I think the voice chapter 9 is going to be interesting to see what comes out of that. And I think over the next couple of months, now that everyone's getting their voice PE editions and playing with it, I think we're going to see a lot of new features, like that broadcast feature alone, and this being able to set temperatures are two things that I was sort of missing from the Amazon Echo. Yeah, so I'm excited. I'd be interested to know, what are people using for their home assistant voice assistant? Are you running the Nabucasa voice PE that came out from Home Assistant? Are you running your own ESP32 with a custom speaker? What's your voice hardware going to? I know I've only got the voice PE at the moment. I'd like to get something with a better speaker and see if, maybe it's a little bit premature to see more hardware manufacturers with support for Nabucasa straight out the box, but yeah, I'm excited for it.
I've seen a few folks using the audio out port. Oh, almost focused there. Kind of. There you go. The audio out port on the Nabucasa Home Assistant voice speaker.
Yes.
On the preview edition piece. But apparently that works pretty well. So you use the actual device as the mic and bring your own speaker, essentially. So that might be interesting. But I feel like now you've got like two things that are kind of jigged together. And
yeah, my concern there is
fine.
And your concern there is you're running two power points, right? Like you got speakers without power are never going to sound good. So you're essentially powering two devices.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to know what people are doing there, and any cool use cases you've got for your voice PA as well. What have you found that you could do with Home Assistant voice that you haven't been able to do with the classic Google Assistant or Amazon Echo? Actually, Rohan, one other thing before we go, check out our YouTube channel as well. We've just uploaded a couple of days ago now a catch up we had with Richard from SwitchBot, one of the co-founders. Of one of the co-founders of SwitchBot, talking about some of the new products we had at CES 2025, and also what Richard's doing with Home Assistant as well. Richard is a Home Assistant user, so yeah, that was cool to see.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, check it out.
We'll try to have some more of our CES coverage uploaded to the YouTube channel soon. We've just got a lot of editing to do at the minute, so yeah, we're getting there. It's coming. If you want it first, of course, subscribe to our Patreon. Otherwise, I think that's it, Rohan.
Perfect.
See you guys.
Have a good one. Cheers.
Cheers.